Hello and welcome to the latest Wrestling Wednesdays. I'm so pleased to have a real special guest this week. Not only former WWF light heavyweight champion, not only a former WWF tag team champion, I think it might be two-time Rikishi and Too Cool. Scotty Too Hotty himself, the king of the worm, Scott Garland. Thank you for your time, Scott.
Thanks, Martin. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. How's everything going in America at the moment? All good?
It's great. Yeah, we're getting back to normal slowly but surely over here. So it seems like it, anyways.
Positive. That's good. Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll all keep going in the right direction, and we can all have a lot more freedom and fun this year.
Right.
Well, as I say, I'm a huge fan of yours. I great memories of you during the Attitude Era, and obviously since then, keeping an eye on what you've been doing with the independent years and obviously working in NXT. So it's an absolute honor to get the chance to chat with you. And I'm really excited because obviously the reason we're having this conversation is because you're coming over here to the UK in only a matter of 2.5 weeks time.
Yeah, in about 2.5 weeks, and I'll be there for about 2 weeks. I will be there for just over 2 weeks, I guess.
That's really exciting. So obviously there's tons to talk about with it. You're starting off obviously in London. What kind of things are you getting up to over here?
So I start in London with the signing. I fly in on the 3rd, do the signing at was it Merton Apprentice? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
On the 4th, which I'm looking forward to. To start in London and kind of ease into the tour, I guess, with a signing and not out there bumping around and beating up my body right away. So, and then actually. After that signing in London, I head over to Wales to do a show on Sunday and the 6th for Exposure Entertainment, and then 2 seminars for them on the 7th. And so I'm off so do the signing on the 4th in London, and then I have that stuff on the 6th. My only day off was the 5th, and it just happens that my buddies. Bob Marley and the Wailers. The Wailers are still touring, and I'm buddies with some of those guys, and mostly the tour manager. And they happen to be in Wales that night, so I'm going to go to that show and hook up with them and be able to see them. So it worked out,
That's amazing.
Pretty crazy. We happen to be in the same place, but then. And then from, do you want me to go through the whole schedule now, or do you want to get?
No, I can put links down. I'll add all the links for you underneath this on YouTube and share it out. I just was quite curious about. I think you're doing sort of an evening with in Liverpool. You're obviously doing these seminars, and it's just quite an intriguing tour because you're kind of doing a bit of mix of everything. So
it's crazy, man. It's overwhelming. It started with one event, and it just continued to build and build and build. And I would stay longer, but I have to be home. I fly home from Dublin on the 18th, and then the 19th I have a signing about 2 hours from home in Florida. So
good.
I won't be back for that. But yeah, so from Wales, I go to Glasgow. I do a seminar in Glasgow on the 8th, and then another one on the 9th. And then before the seminar on the 9th, I have a signing at a A1, it's a toy store in Glasgow, which is cool. I was glad because at first we were only doing 2 days of seminars in Scotland. And it's like, it's not really giving anything to the fans. And I kept asking, I was advertising the seminars, which unbelievably sold out. The first one sold out, I think, in the first day. And then, so we added the second one, and then that sold out. And then, fans were asking me, are you wrestling? Are you doing a signing? And we didn't have anything. So we, luckily we were able to make this signing happen at this toy store. So I'd like to be wrestling, but for this time around, it'll just be the signing. And then, like you said, I go down to Liverpool on the 10th for TNT, do the show for them, and then I have a seminar for them. I think it's their wrestling school is called Claw. So it's CLAW. So I don't know if they on the 11th, and then we're doing one of these an evening with type of thing where it's Q&A and just talking. So and then off to Dublin for OTT on whatever that Saturday is. I guess this will be the 12th, I think. And then I'll stay in Dublin for the week. And at first I was coming home on the 15th, And then I realized the day after I booked, I'm sorry, I was flying home on the 16th. And then the day after I booked the flights, I realized it was St. Patrick's Day. So like, I'm crazy. I know from what everybody tells me, I don't know if, like, what kind of holiday, to Americans, like, that's a huge thing. And we perceive it a certain way in Ireland. And now people are telling me it's not as big as you think it's going to be. But I don't know, they haven't done it for, it'll be the first time in 3 years that they're having a St. Patrick's Day. So either way, it'll be cool. As an American, to be in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. I was already there, so I was like, it's a no-brainer to kind of switch my ticket and stay for a few extra days. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the whole thing. It's exciting. I was at a point in my career where I was coaching, and I never said that I had retired, but I kind of just had my last match and got this pretty cool gig with WWE coaching, and so it just kind of ended. And I didn't know if I'd ever travel like this again or have another match. And so to be able to go, come over there and come back to a place that I didn't know if I'd ever even see again, anytime soon anyways. And it's 12 days, balls to the wall, flat out craziness. So it's exciting,
And obviously, yeah, ending it in the really calmest, quiet way possible with St. Patrick's Day in Dublin. Yeah, yeah, you'll have a very fun time. It's I suppose how you perceive it is probably how we perceive America for Halloween, where you kind of go really all out for it. And we have done a little bit, but it's not the same. But yeah, you'll have an amazing time. I mean, Dublin's an incredible city anyway. You'll enjoy the whole stay. But yeah, just to be there for St. Patrick's Day, you'll have a
I love Ireland. I don't know if you remember, years ago we were doing, before OTT, there was a group called AWR, which was American Wrestling Rampage, and they would bring in, I don't know, I want to say 6 to 10 former WWE guys, and the rest was mostly a bunch of the Irish guys. And we did a bunch of shows and tours. I mean, we did a 3-4 week tour in Germany and France and Ireland and Bulgaria, Romania. And so when you're on the road with somebody for 3 or 4 weeks, even if you start the tour not knowing them, by the end of 4 weeks, being on a tour bus and hotels and shows, basically living together for a month, you become pretty close. So it's been years since I've seen those guys. So I'm looking forward to getting back over there and hanging out with them and seeing those guys. So it's exciting, man.
Yeah, no, it's, as I say, for myself and other fans, we're really excited to know that you're coming back, because, as I say, we have great memories of when you've worked over here, and obviously great memory of seeing of a lot of you TV. Yeah. But it's that thought of, will you ever see him again? And then obviously the great work you've been doing in NXT and WWE with the coaching side of things, you do always think, the influence is going to be there and you're going to see it in people, but you want Scotty too, Hotty back, just that one more time, I was very lucky to see you a couple of times, obviously, for WWF in the UK with events. I saw obviously you in a tag team match, and I've seen you against the Hurricane. When you were coming over in those days, what was that sort of feeling like when you knew you were coming over to a crowd that weren't getting you all year round, but were so excited to be having you?
I think it's still the same way. At least that's my feeling going into this tour. The way that the seminars have sold and the buzz around everything, it still feels different than it is here. Like you said, I think it's, I don't want to say, they take us for granted here, and they take, but I think to a degree, we would be in Pittsburgh every couple of months when we were here, but we'd go to, we would go to England once or twice a year, and it was just a different feeling, and it was so cool. And it was cool for me, man. Like, I grew up a wrestling fan. I've been doing, wanted to do it since I was 10 years old, and I was basically self-trained, in my mom's garage. My buddies and I, we messed around, and we learned how to do this crazy stuff. And so to get on a plane and, fly 12 hours and land somewhere where they know who you are and they're excited to see you, it's a pretty cool feeling, and like I said, I didn't know if I was going to ever do that again, or, at least anytime soon. So to have it happening now, and especially I think going through the COVID thing and everything locked down, and not only wrestling but the world in general, are we ever going to get back to normal? And so to come back with this type of tour and this type of schedule is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was wondering if I could ask you a couple of things basically about your time when you were obviously doing the big tours with WWE with the Attitude Era. I mean, ridiculous number of tag teams during the time that you were in there with, obviously Edge and Christian, Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys. But you guys really stood out, not just because of the fact that you could work so well and, you know, very athletic, like I mentioned earlier, light heavyweight division, but you were in, you know, working with all weight classes. But it's the fact that you found ways to entertain crowds that others couldn't with your dance moves. At what point did you realize you could bring your dance moves in such a cool way into your characters?
That's the funny thing. Like, they're really not my dance moves. Like, I was still to this day, Martin, I've never danced as myself in public. Like, it's just I did a little bit of breakdancing when I was a kid, and that's what I kind of incorporated into the character. Um, so it was more me making fun of people like me that thought they could dance, you know. So it was fun. Like, we were different. Like, it was timing. You know, we were kind of a more of a comedic thing when you had Edge and Christian and the Hardys doing, you know, especially the Hardys doing crazy stuff all the time and diving off ladders. But then, you know, Edge and Christian did that also, but they were a little comedic at times, you know, and then you had the Dudleys and, you know, with the tables and a little bit more hardcore, and then, you know, APA, you know, who just went out there and beat people up. And so everybody kind of had their place, you know, and it just worked. It was an amazing time. And I always say that my career peaked at the peak of professional wrestling. You know, as far as I'm concerned, like, I don't know if we'll ever see another time like that again. Like, you know, I know they say they're making more money now than they ever have. And that's great. But that was a special time, I think, for fans and anybody who was involved in it. You know, dude, like, I mean, it was, you go back and you watch the videos and the crowds and the signs, and, you know, it was an insane time that it's just different now, I guess, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's still a case of, I get when I watch back stuff and see entrances and that, you still get the goosebumps every time, even though you know it's from, you know, 20 years ago or whatever, and you know what happened. You still get that, oh, so and so's entered the ring or whatever when you watch it back. But it's it was the pop culture as well at the time, wasn't it? You know, it was that
Oh,
kind
for
of era
sure.
where the internet, people were starting to get a little bit more knowledgeable of things. You thought you knew what was going on, but you didn't really, and you kind of, it was just everywhere. It was in your face all the time. And like you say, they might be making more money now in general, but you cannot beat the crowds from sort of
uh,
98 to 2001. Very, very special times, and you
for
know, we
sure.
appreciate everything you did. Um, Weirdly enough, obviously you did. We mainly speak about your tag team work a lot of the time. Obviously, people ask you mostly about that. One of your matches in the UK was with the Hurricane, and you got a lovely win
Yeah.
when you're over here. What was it? What was that kind of like when you go into that kind of run? You become a solo run afterwards, and you're up against guys like the Hurricane, who's obviously another great character.
Oh, it's fun. I love working with Hurricane all the time. Still, like, I mean, he's a guy, like, even after WWE, you know, we went around the world together, you know, into Chile together, and Ecuador together, you know, literally around the world to all these different places. And it's just awesome. And, like, he's one of the guys that that was always one of my favorites to work with. And we were kind of similar characters, a little bit of comedy, but also solid wrestlers at the same time. And it was just, it was a night off, and just fun. And that it's funny because we still to this day will joke about that match, because when I gave him the Bulldog for the worm and that, he was wearing he was still wearing just the makeup at the time. He hadn't even got the leather mask yet, because the character had just started. And I gave him the Bulldog and pretty much almost knocked him out on the Bulldog. And he said there was makeup on the mat from where his head hit. So it's pretty funny. But
That's a great memory. I love that. I absolutely love that. Brilliant. I've got to ask you a couple of questions about two of our greatest heroes of all time, the British Bulldog and William Regal. You were around the time when they're both wrestling, but obviously you've also worked with Regal for a number of years since. Where have you got any sort of memories or thoughts on either of those two guys that you could share with us?
I mean, I grew up a British Bulldogs fan, you know, so to go back and, you know, to watch their stuff, but also to think back and think, like, you know, I wrestled, like, Davey Boy was in, like, one of the first Two Cool Things we did. Like, I think it was him and I say it was like him and Val Venus maybe against us, and Mean Street Posse came in and started putting the boots to us, and then Rikishi came in and made the save. And I might be off on a couple of those names, but I know I know Davey Boy was definitely in there because I saw it recently, and just to think back and like be like, man, like I got to work with a guy that I looked up to as a kid. Like, how many people get to do that? Like, so awesome. And then Regal's a guy that I think if you look at the if you look at social media when he was released from WWE recently, and the people that talked about how he helped them out, or all the kind words that he got, says a lot. Not only about him as a wrestler but as a person, and it was cool to see. But we wrestled a ton as well. Me and Funaki with Paul Burchill and Regal, me and Regal and Taylor, Dave Taylor. So many times throughout the year. And he was a guy like. He was perfect for me, character-wise, because he was more of a serious wrestler, and the Scotty Too Hotty character would be an insult to his type of character, and vice versa. Like, he's the farthest thing from me. It's the same type of thing with like a Dean Malenko. We're so far from each other, and that, to me, like, that's what makes wrestling awesome and fun. You have these polar opposite characters, and you get to see what happens when they get together.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of it. That's the great storytelling art that you've got. And as much as you've got a great character and the moves and the fun side of you, if you couldn't do the amazing work that you can do in the ring, it wouldn't tell the same. And that's the beauty of your abilities. Yeah, obviously you said you're self-taught with obviously the home garage and everything, but you're a seasoned pro, and obviously those abilities to tell that story really resonate when you're watching a match. You mentioned obviously Dean Malenko. That was the other one I was going to ask you about, is the tag match against the Radicals that opened up with Insurrection. I think it was 2000 or 2001.
It was 2000. Yeah, that was my first time to England, actually.
Okay.
That was the first time I ever came over. Yeah, and it was. I remember we flew over, we did the show, and we got back on the plane and came home. Like, wow. So that's what I was going to say. Like, now I get to enjoy, even as crazy as the schedule is coming up. Like I'll fly to London on Thursday, right? I get in Thursday morning. I'll have all day Thursday, all night Thursday, do my signing. All I have on Friday is the signing on Friday night, and then Saturday off with a concert, and then show Sunday. So it sounds crazy, but it's nothing compared to WWE. Like I just said, you don't really get to, half the time you don't know where you are. You're going so hard. You're going 100 miles an hour, and it's London one day, Paris the next day, Dublin the next day, Belfast the next day. Come back to the States, shoot Monday Night Raw, fly back to Italy, and it's just on top of the jet lag and the flying every day, you don't really get to see anything or appreciate anything. Whereas now, it's I get to enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah,
and I love the travel. I do. I love the travel. I miss the travel.
Does it take sort of those breaks when you sort of come out either with an injury, or you change careers, or you change roles in the company? Is it those moments you're able to sort of just recharge and be like, wow, look what I've, I didn't get to take it in the same at the time, but look where I've been,
Oh yeah. I mean, still now I look back and or I'll see something and be like, holy, like, that's so awesome. As well as somebody tagged me in something on Twitter last night, and it was a DX promo with all of DX in the ring. And then our music hits, we come down, we stop at the bottom of the ramp, me, Rikishi, and Brian. And then we stop at the bottom of the ramp. Kane's music hits. He comes down with Paul Bearer, stops and stands with us. And then Rock's music hits, comes down, and all of us get in the ring, and we have this big brawl with DX. And then I'm like, I don't even remember doing this, at the time. But there I am standing next to The Rock, the biggest star on the planet. And now, right? And it's awesome to see now. Like, but at the time, like I said, you're going so fast and so many shows and so many dates, and and then at the time we were doing, we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Raw Monday, SmackDown Tuesday, fly home Wednesday, home Thursday, fly back out Friday, and do it all over. So you don't really have time to appreciate it. You're going so fast, and the last thing you want to do is watch what you did when you get home on your one day off on Thursday, sit around watching wrestling. So sometimes I think we just wouldn't even see what we did. It would just be, it would air and then it was gone. And now it's starting to pop up all these years later. I'll see stuff and I'm like, I don't even remember doing that. But it's cool.
And is that obviously when you obviously do meet fans and they talk to you about their memories of your work or whatever, is that just nice to have that moment of like you get to relive it? And...
It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. Because now I'm meeting, because Too Cool Rikishi was 22 years ago now. So I'm meeting people who were little kids at the time, or and they're grown men and women with families, and if they were 10 years old here, now they're 32. So it's awesome. It's still living my dream. There's still nothing else I want to do more than this. And I feel like I said, I didn't even know if I was going to do this again. So it's cool to get back out there and be able to do it. And both of my kids are older now. My son's almost 18 and my daughter's 20. So they were little kids when I was going hard. So it's cool for them to be able to be a part of it. And I took my daughter to had one show in South Carolina a couple weeks ago, and we made a road trip. It's about a 10-hour drive from here. And I told the promoter, instead of flying me in, I'll just drive it, and I'll bring my daughter. And we took a week, the whole week, and just went from went to Georgia to South Carolina, North Carolina, and then back home. But we took a week-long road trip and did that. And she got to see me wrestle in person for the first time in a long time. And then my son is going to go to Dallas for WrestleCon, WrestleMania weekend, and he'll get to be a part of that. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, what do they think of finding out? Did they know much when they were growing up about what you were like as a wrestler, any character, or is it just now they're sort of really unearthing and knowing, wow, that's their dad?
No, I think they knew. It's it's what they grew up with. It's all they know. So sometimes I don't know if they realize how cool it is, but I think they think it's cool. My son's standing right here, so I have to be careful. I can put him on if you want to talk to
him. Say hello from me. I will. I'm gonna dig out a few more photos and tag you in a couple of them on Facebook, because I found some from your tours in the UK. So I'll bring them over.
That's awesome, man. I love seeing pictures that I've never seen before. That's another thing. It's people upload different stuff and it'd be like, just stuff that I've never seen is so cool.
One thing I was going to mention, obviously, I've seen quite a lot of stuff on social media about you going wrestling in your hometown of Maine, with obviously the main event. I have to ask, you might not remember it, but you've actually been to my hometown of Lincoln, where I'm currently back living. You came and did an independent show with Fight Factory Wrestling several years ago, probably.
Dude, I had my Fight Factory. They gave me a shirt, and I wore it to the gym today.
How funny!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I still have. I think I had a couple shirts from them, but yeah, and I wore that. I always use those for my gym shirts, and it's fun. I almost did the interview with it on.
That's amazing. But make sure you.
I think Brian and I were together on that, right?
Yeah. I unfortunately it was the way it works. So I couldn't be there, but it was just really surreal looking at going, you guys are in my hometown. Like, how am I missing you? Like, seeing you at Earl's Court, but I'm missing you in Lincoln. Like, what's going on?
So the promoter Nigel, he's the promoter of the show in Wales for Exposure Entertainment. He booked us when I did that stuff with Brian. One tour with Brian and one tour was the three of us. But he just booked us on a ton of stuff. Like we were pretty much working every day, and we would do just like a signing at I can't remember what the chain is now. It's a restaurant chain over there, and we would do signings during the week at these different restaurants, and then we were doing shows on the weekends for 2 or 3 weeks. So it was a cool time too. Like he had rented an RV, and we traveled around England in the RV. So it was a fun time. I actually brought my son over on one of those tours too. In 2015, he came over. It was the tour with the three of us. So that was cool because he had never met those guys, Brian and Rikishi. So it was cool to have him on that.
yourself, Brian and Rikishi, I mean, where does that rank in your life in terms of great moments, like getting to work with those guys and being at WrestleMania with China and the rest of you guys and the pops you had? Where does that fit? Not necessarily just from a wrestling point of view, but for your own life and memories as well.
Oh, I mean, that was the peak of my career, right? I mean, that was 2000, and that's when everything was red hot. And before that, it's funny. I was just doing an interview the other day. We were talking about it, going, we got together with Rikishi in December of '99, and then like the Royal Rumble moment that we see all the time now with the three of us danced in the middle of the Royal Rumble was in January. So December we were put together. In January, a month later, is when that iconic moment happened. And it's funny. I just saw Rikishi this past weekend. We were talking about that, and we realized it was cool at the time, but now to look back and I think that's every year around the Royal Rumble, it'll pop up in my feed 100 times. Somebody's tagging us in it, and it was just such a cool moment. And I think I don't even know if we realized how big it was going to be when they told us about it that day. It seemed cool, but we didn't think it was going to be. I don't think any of us thought it would be. 22 years later, people will still be talking about it.
But that's how iconic you guys are. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, look at the reaction you got. Like you mentioned, you got together about a month before the Royal Rumble, or maybe 6 weeks before it, and you made that kind of moment. And I suppose that's the influence people can learn from. Obviously, your work when you're coaching, and obviously these seminars that you're coming over to do over here. If people can't pick up that from you and learn how, right, within a month you could do something that could last a lifetime, they've got to learn that.
Yeah. And before that, I mean, we were on the chopping block. I was kind of expecting to be released at any point because we just weren't doing anything, and then it just took off. And that's what I tell people now. You just got to try stuff and throw stuff against the wall, and you never know what's going to work in this crazy business. The worm, the stink face, the people's eyebrow, Austin 316. It's just, you just never know, what people are going to latch onto and run with. I'm pretty sure Austin didn't know that Austin 316 was going to become, probably the most famous wrestling shirt in the history of wrestling, and it's just something he said one night, and then the next day everybody has signs say Austin 316, and same thing for our stuff. Like, we had no idea that. I didn't sit down and plan out the worm. It just happened, and it took off, and the fans latched onto it, and thankfully they did.
Yeah, well, I think that's why, like I said, I'm a huge fan. I think the reason we connected with you is how genuine you were and how much it organically grew. So it kind of felt natural, and it was great to see guys like yourself that maybe didn't have the best storylines or weren't there and thereabouts, and then suddenly you just saw it and you felt, and you really get behind them, and you're like, yes, I want these guys on all the time. So I'd say huge gratitude to you and you guys for creating such amazing memories for us all. The last question I've really got for you is just if you were to try and maybe go back and pick, I don't know, one day or one match or one moment in that run that you could relive again for a day or revisit, what would you look to pick?
Probably that Royal Rumble. If I knew what it was going to be, I might have, taken a few more pictures or taken some notes, or I don't really remember much about the day even. I don't think we even rehearsed anything. I don't remember talking with anybody about it really. It's just, we went out there, we did it, and and now it lives forever. But probably that, I guess. WrestleMania 2000 was cool. That whole week was cool leading up to that. Everything leading up to that WrestleMania 2000. I mean, they did a whole, I don't know if you guys got it over there, but MTV over here did a special, an hour-long special with Joe C from Kid Rock, and the whole special was about, we shot it all at a house show, live event, prior to WrestleMania, and this special aired on MTV the day of WrestleMania, and the whole thing is him going around looking for Too Cool Rikishi. So he's going around the locker room, and he goes up to Triple H, he goes up to Kurt Angle, the Dudley Boys, all of those characters at the time. And the cool thing is, he, right before he died, he gave me a VHS tape of the unedited footage. So, and I just was able to, you can't find VHS players anymore, but I found one in a thrift shop, and I was able to play this tape. And I saw all this stuff for the first time in like 20 years, and it was crazy. Like, I mean, you get guys busting up and laughing, and they're shooting stuff 10 times, and Gangrel's on there, Crash Holly's on there. It was like really, really, it was really cool to see. Just, it was footage that I hadn't really I never watched the tape after he gave it to me, but just kind of watching it, and just really, really cool to see.
That's incredible.
That was cool. I guess my point was like that whole time was just awesome. We were doing signings that were just crazy. I mean, 3 hours of people lined up, and just, I don't go, how did this happen? Like, it happened so fast. And, they send us to a car dealership, and there's 3 hours worth of people standing outside, lined up. Or they send us to like the WWF restaurant at the time. Later became the World and the WWE New York restaurant, and right in the middle of Times Square, where, it was just crazy time. And just like in wrestling in general, it was crazy. And for us, it was crazy. And, just thankful to have it happen at that time for us,
Yeah, amazing. And that's the thing. It's the reason you guys were such good characters and people that it made it popular. I know it was a big peak time, but it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have worked had it not been that group of people with that group of personalities, and at that time in the way the media and the way you consume things and stuff. It was just must-see TV every single week. So as I say, honestly, absolutely huge pleasure chatting with you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks' time.
Just my social media, Martin. Everything is, well, Facebook is still Scotty Too Hotty. Instagram and Twitter are the Scott Garland now. WWE changed that over for me, and then everything's on there. I try to be smart with my marketing and my promoting, and try to keep everything out there, keep blasting the dates out there, especially with like Twitter. You put it on Twitter and it's gone in 30 seconds. So, but like, I really like the Instagram, and I'm able to blast out the graphics for the different appearances and stuff, and like keep everybody updated. Sometimes I feel like I overdo it, but then was it last night? I put up the Wales show, and I feel like I've been advertising the Liverpool show a lot, because they've been advertising a lot. So every time they put it out, I repost it, and so I posted the Wales show last night, and then somebody messaged me in the comments. They're like, "Are you coming close to Manchester?" So I looked. Manchester, Liverpool was like an hour away, with the 30. I can't remember whatever it was, but it was close. And I'm like, so this guy is not even. He hasn't seen my other stuff that I feel like I'm over promoting, and so it's. I just I try to be smart with it, and try to be creative with some of my videos and stuff, and try to keep everybody updated. But everything's on my social media, and I have a pro wrestling tees store. I have a little merchandise store with some pictures and stuff, and the wrestling, what are they called, the buddies, the stuffed things. I have those on there. Those should be coming in now, but everything's on my social media anyways. But
if you've got bring some wrestling buddies to the UK, they will sell.
Really?
They'll be popular.
Really?
Yeah, they'll be
cool.
They'll be good. Bring a handful with you. I'm sure you'll get rid of them very quickly. Put it that way.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Well, as I say, absolute pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the 4th. And then obviously we'll promote obviously all the different events you're doing. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. The legend and hopefully future Hall of Famer that he is, Scott Garland, aka Scotty Too Hotty.
Thank you, Martin.